Hello, and welcome to Ep.6 of the No Name Podcast with your hosts, Trey
and Braden.
And man, it's been a week.
It has been a pretty good week, man. We just re-listened to one of our previous episodes, episode 5, and we're going to be doing a lot of piggybacking of some of the things that we talked about. But I'm really excited. Today's going to be more health and fitness focused. But dude,
yeah, and I'm glad to be back in here. It's been a little while. We've taken a little bit of a break. We for the people listening, all of our followers, we started this off about a month or two before I knew that I was expecting a baby, and so we gathered multiple episodes kind of in the chamber, so to speak, before we recorded five episodes before we had the baby, knowing that, hey, we're going to take a several week break from recording. So that's what we've done over the last couple of weeks, is taking a break. So it's been about a month since we've been in the studio.
Yeah, it has been a minute, and it probably will be a minute before this episode gets released. So just so everyone knows, we are recording, June 7th?
Today is June 7th. Yes.
June 7th, yeah. So it might not be until late June that this actually gets released, but that's just because we like to preemptively have some things in the bank. So, we can do life whenever life happens.
Yes, we are 2 to 3 weeks ahead. And I now have a sweet baby girl that came out 9 pounds 5 ounces. It's pretty hefty. That's props to my wife. She's absolutely amazing, doing just absolutely phenomenal. I love watching her be a mother. So if you're listening to this, I'm so proud of you, Abby, and it's amazing watching the things that you do as a mother and a wife. So
yeah, dude, Presley is awesome. She's a big baby. I mean, she gets that from her daddy. So
yeah, healthy. Maybe it has to do with the things we were eating while she was pregnant. I don't know. I had Abby and I had her on a high protein diet in the womb.
I know, that's awesome. It's like you joke about, like, giving your wife like steak and burgers and all this meat and loading her up with creatine, but I mean that's pretty close to what you guys were doing.
Yeah, well, no creatine, but like Abby was. I mean, I try to get my grams of protein per pound of body fat I try to get my grams of protein per pound of body weight in. And so naturally in doing that, we're cooking high protein meals and having our, as our side items, good healthy sides and things, which we'll get into a little bit more. But naturally Abby is kind of eating that way as well, eating higher protein meals and stuff. And that's just kind of how our family eats. And so who knows? I don't know if that had anything to do with how big the baby was, but either way, 9 pounds 5 ounces, that's pretty impressive. So
yeah, I mean, the health of Presley is definitely a direct correlation of y'all's decisions. I mean, whenever someone gets pregnant, it's like, don't drink alcohol, don't smoke, don't do these things. It's going to affect the health of the baby. It's all these don'ts, but what are the do's? Y'all were doing all the right stuff, just being healthy, being active, eating well. And now we've got this organic home birth baby that's just living and thriving, bro. It's so awesome to see. I'm so happy. I feel like Uncle Jesse from Full House. I'm just over at y'all's house all the time, and I just can't wait to just be right there with Presley.
I have no idea what that means. I've never watched Full House, but
oh man.
Yeah, that's kind of a hot topic too. One, you mentioned the home birth. That was a really cool experience. I had no idea what to think at first. When Abby mentioned she wanted to do a home birth at first, I was like, whoa, okay. Wouldn't have had it any other way. It worked out perfectly. And it was absolutely amazing. The midwives did absolutely phenomenal. Right now, Presley's doing phenomenal. She cries when she wants to eat, and then she sleeps, and she is very healthy, like you mentioned. And I know everyone's experience with their babies, is different, but we're very thankful for how she's her temperament in her first few weeks and everything like that. So very enjoyable. I don't know if that's a correlation to, maybe the diet or the things that, we did during the pregnancy or whatnot, but that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, very, very excited to be a parent in the days to come. It's going to be a fun journey.
It's going to be a fun journey, man. That's awesome. This week, I mean, dude, let alone all the awesome and amazing things that have been going on over the past month. This week has been great. This has been the first week that we can consistently get in and do a cold plunge before our workout. And I know that you have lots of experience with cold plunges, and that's something that, has really refined you. But cold plunges are kind of new to me. And so it's been a good a mental hurdle, another win, another stackable win that I can add to the bucket, at the very beginning of the day. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, I enjoy cold plunges. I've not been like over the years like every day, haven't missed a cold plunge in 3 years kind of guy, but I've done my fair share of cold plunges. But don't give me the sauna. I know that's kind of backwards from a lot of people. A lot of people enjoy the sauna, but I would much rather sit in the cold plunge than hop in the sauna. And I think pairing both of them together is pretty cool, but it has been good getting to get in the cold plunge, first thing in the morning before we hit the gym. It's been awesome. Wakes you up, get your blood flowing. Yeah, I love it.
I do too. I mean, and we're able to do that because the last episode we had talked about how our routines were kind of off because the gym was moving. Well, gym's here. It's awesome. It's great. It's the best gym I've ever been in. I feel like a kid in a candy store, just walking around with all the new, toys and equipment and all the, dumbbells and all the, it's cool. I love it.
Yeah, shout out to our gym, Operation Iron, downtown Clarksville.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, you should go check it out. It's not necessarily a brand new facility, like the building was there, but a brand new location, and they've done an amazing job with setting it up in there. We got, cold plunge, you got, all your normal weights, you've got a posing room if you're into that, you've got a child room where the kids can play. I mean, it's got everything you can think of that you would need in a gym. Turf areas, all the good stuff. So shout out to Operation Iron. Yeah. But anyways, I say we go ahead and get into today's topic. I know you had mentioned it's going to be a little bit more focused on the health and fitness realm of our podcast. So we're excited about that. We do have our notes here. There's going to be a lot of there are a lot of ideas out there on proper diet, exercise, and disease prevention. And we, through trial and error, being trial and error professionals, have found what we know to be true for us. And it's shown through your physique, through our mental clarity, things like that. We have some profound ideas that we believe, and it's not anything new. There are other people out there that talk about these exact same things, but we're also not medical professionals. We're not nutritional experts, but hopefully we can be living testimonies. So.
Yeah, living testimonies, and again, a lot of the ideas that we've come to have just been our own research and application. But dude, what a thing that people can really...
You were talking about our ideas and stuff, and I will say some of them over the past however many years, since the 2000s, can be or have been controversial in the mainstream. So I wanted to preface it with that. Not necessarily like, hey, this is going to, cancel you or anything, but just there is a lot of conversation in the food realm of things and fitness realm right now. So sorry I interrupted, but you had mentioned that.
You're all good, man. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of controversy about the proper diet and politics, It's both things that people can get behind,
Seriously.
Good Thanksgiving dinner conversations. But yeah, anyway, so let's get into it, my man. Today, we're in a world riddled with disease and confusion, and no one really knows what's going on. Like, what do you think is causing what we see today?
Yeah, well, I think one place we can start, you had mentioned like disease and confusion, and and more so like I think like confusion on kind of what's causing this disease. There's kind of also to piggyback off of episode 5, we talked about the cause and effect of disease and whatnot, but I think a lot of it can go back to our diets, what we eat. I think a lot of it can go back to kind of what we're all about here is routine and discipline. But, going back to the basics on some of these things, I mean, some of the statistics on here show, I'm going to go ahead and read these off. So this is from the AHA, which is the American Heart Association. Today, an estimated 133 million Americans, nearly half the population, suffer from at least one chronic illness. That figure is 15 million higher than just a decade ago, and by 2030, this number is expected to reach 170 million.
Yeah, so we're not fear-mongering. Like, let the numbers speak for themselves. There is disease, and there's stuff like this that didn't used to be there, and these are the numbers speaking for themselves. And a lot of that, it talks about chronic illness. It's crazy to see the shift in our world in Western culture about how people used to die of like disease and infection and bacteria and stuff like that. And now it's switched. Now we are so smart and we have all these medical advancements that we're defeating these things. But it's like, are we really doing a justice here? Because now people at a very high rate are dying of all these chronic illnesses. And what is that a result of? I'll tell you, it's lifestyle choices. Just like you were saying, people's diets and exercise and all these things. And so you see that clearly. And if you've ever turned on your TV, just about every commercial is some type of drug advertisement, and it's like, here's the drug, here's what it's going to cause, and all the side effects.
Yeah, like the commercials where you hear it's like, here's this, maybe it's a medication or something you can do for weight loss or, blood pressure. And then at the end, like super quick and super brief, it's like, and the side effects include but are not limited to, and then it goes into like, the side effects are included but not limited to obesity, loss of this, loss of that, and hair loss, and this and that, and Crohn's disease, and this and all. Like it starts like naming off all these things, like really
death.
quick and very brief. Yeah, even death. It says even death. And these are side effects. And I think a lot of time through this style of marketing, I just thought about this a lot this week, and maybe it's the plan behind it, maybe it's not, but I was thinking about like, okay, when this stat right here says that nearly half the population suffers from at least one chronic illness. That's like if 2 people are born, probably one of them is going to have a chronic illness. And all of these, the majority of these side effects on these commercials and are these chronic illnesses. But when they're read off kind of like at the end of the commercial, like super fast, super brief, super, low key, I think a lot of times, like at least this is how I've always thought, like, oh, well, I mean, they're saying that super briefly, so it's probably not like very, like the odds are probably low that like these side effects happen. They're probably low, and so I find myself thinking like, if I was to take something like that or do something, like I'm probably exempt because I'm a pretty healthy person in general. And if it was important, if this like was happening to a lot of people, then they would likely put an emphasis on it, and they would say, hey, these side effects are this, 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 and this, so steer clear from this, if you know what I mean. But they don't necessarily do that. They do it quickly and briefly. And so we think that like the odds are low, but I'm telling you, like 1 in 2, nearly half.
Seriously, man, that is crazy. The numbers don't lie.
Seriously.
Numbers don't lie. Another stat to piggyback off of just the chronic illness and disease in America, it's not just our physical temple. It's it's the mental as well. According to Hopkins Medicine, mental health disorders, 1 in 4 adults suffer from a diagnosable mental health issue. Dude, that is insane. I mean, mental health is a huge topic of discussion in today's world. And so, again, it's like these lifestyle choices. It's affecting our physical bodies, and it's affecting, what's up in here, too.
Yeah, and that being from Hopkins Medicine, that's John Hopkins' or Johns Hopkins or John Hopkins is well renowned. I think it's a university.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of medical studies, and so the 1 in 4 U.S. adults suffering from mental disorders, and these things are just becoming all too common. You want to name off a few of these things that we're talking about for those of you who don't know what like chronic illnesses and mental disorders are, and these aren't in any order or labeled under this is this or this is that. This is just things that we are seeing in today's world that unfortunately a lot of people suffer from.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like just about everyone has these, some type of combination of these, and if you don't have them, you know someone that has heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, Alzheimer's, clogged arteries, anxiety, depression, arthritis, cancer, ADHD, ADD, ABC, blah, blah, blah. Whatever made up combination of letters people want to say. Low energy, brain fog, lack of focus, drowsiness, joint pain, bad sleep. I mean, man, we could go on. The list is endless.
Was that a commercial?
It sounded like it, as my voice picked up. Yeah.
It says, and if you take this, the side effects are this, but not limited to heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, Alzheimer's, clogged arteries, anxiety, blah, blah, blah. And just for, $19.99, you can, no.
I know. Just for this magic pill, you can make everything go away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not what we're about here on the No Name Podcast. We are all about, number one, we're all about our faith and, proclaiming the name of Yeshua, Jesus. And we are all about taking care of our temples. And so we want to promote health, not through pills, but we want to promote health first. And there are times when it's like, hey, this is like you have a serious, something going on where like you have to, like this is like life or death. You probably need to be put on something like whatever it might be, or like even medicines where you're going into surgery, like things like that. But we want to make sure that we're taking the steps first and foremost on the front end that can just help prevent and keep us from getting to that point where we starting to maybe rely on pills or things like that. I think is super important to note here is like we want to, one, first and foremost, promote health through diet, nutrition, fitness, and
Yeah, we're not demonizing just the health industry and any of that stuff at all, because emergency health care, I mean, think we need to go to the emergency room right now because my arm broke in half. I mean, I'm going to need a pill to make the pain go away. I'm going to need, some trauma care. And so awesome. Like we are all about that stuff and just the advancements that are in place for that. But what we're really talking about today is more of the long-term habits and decisions and results that come from those things, which are a lot of chronic illness.
Let's put it this way. You had mentioned we're not demonizing the healthcare industry, and in no way, shape, or form are we doing that. But I think everyone could agree, like, the health industry is there to be used when needed. It's not hey, let's go figure out how we can live in the health, like, let's go figure out how we can take a pill or how we can do this. Like, the health industry is best if avoided because it means you're healthy. You don't have to pay the medical bill. You don't have to buy the next, bottle of whatever it might be. But it's like, I think in today's society, sometimes when we say that, people think, oh, they're demonizing the health industry or the medical industry. Well, it's like, no, but it's there. The medical industry is or should be there for when we need to use it, when we are in a situation where our health is at risk. Mm-hmm. Literally, our health is at risk, not
and our health shouldn't be at risk all the time. We should take care of our health. So we don't need to use this as a crutch for everything, just whenever we need to.
Correct.
That's awesome. I love that you pointed that out.
Yeah. So, I think that's good.
So we've kind of talked about where we're at today, but let's kind of go over a recap of how we've gotten here and just the history. It didn't always used to be this way.
Yeah, and this is just kind of based off of our own research and generally we're going to name off some time frames like 19th century, stuff like that, but generally we can look back at a population and a time where things were not this way and now they are, and then we're going to break down like what is one thing that is, or what is something that has changed from that time to this time. So I'll let you kind of take it from there, Braden.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned 19th century. Let's go back to early 19th century, like pre-industrial revolution, and we've got like the average American family is living a completely different life than we are today. They're out on the homestead, on the farm, in the rural community, having, just a group of people working together and living like a more, just natural, sustainable life. And then today, post-industrial revolution, I mean, we're in the heart of downtown Clarksville. We are in a city. There's the hustle and bustle. There's the 9 to 5. There's the neighborhoods, people living, on less than a quarter of an acre, going to the grocery store for food. Things have changed, and it wasn't always that way. Yeah.
So just pointing out the vast difference between lifestyles of, not saying one is necessarily better than the other, but we can all recognize that there is a vastly different lifestyle from then and now.
Yeah.
And there's also vastly different numbers from then to now. Like we're reading off these numbers where 1 in 2 people is, nearly half the population is suffering from chronic illnesses and stuff. I don't think that was the case then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that you pointed that out. I know, just thinking about, from me living on a homestead, it's very doable in today's world if you are wanting to live that way, slower, maybe where you produce some of your own foods and things like that. It's very doable. I do it on a small scale, but more importantly, seeking out, as we are going to the grocery stores and we're all not living on farms and homesteads and things like that, we really need to pay attention to the people who do have the ability to put the food on our tables. Because we all need to recognize that we're constantly being marketed to, we're constantly being sold, because everything today that we consume, whether it's food, whether it's media, is a business. It's a business, and someone's livelihood relies on it. So in order to have a successful business, oftentimes we're looking at, hey, we need to keep the costs down and keep the expense, we need to keep our costs down, our overhead down, and we need to sell this product for the most we can in order to generate a product, in order to generate a profit. And we also need to mass produce in order to feed everyone across the United States. And so when you think about that, I think we really have to be careful when we look at what ingredients, the way things, when we're at the grocery store, we need to be looking at the back. We need to be reading the ingredients that are on the back, that are on these labels, to see, okay, what is put in this? Is this company, or is this whatever? Are they trying to simply generate a profit? We need to look at how was it processed, all the things like that. That, in my opinion, goes further than tracking calories and thinking of like, okay, am I at a calorie deficit? How much am I working out? How much am I eating? What are my macros, the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats? I think more importantly than that is we need to look at what is in this stuff that we're eating, because that's the stuff that affects your molecular molecular makeup. And if your molecular makeup is in the dumps, but you're working out a lot and you're eating low calories, but it's all low quality, then maybe we're not as healthy as we can be. I think health is a lot more than weight and calories. I know I posted something about that on my social media story, or my Instagram story. Health is a lot more than just weight. Like, if my goal weight is to weigh 220 pounds and I'm at that weight, that is not a marker of how healthy I am, because I could be unhealthy molecularly and chemically in my body, drowsy, exhausted, eating crappy foods, but maybe I work hard enough to get myself to that weight, but I'm really unhealthy. I think if we focus on our internal health, our gut biomes, if we focus on what we're eating, focus on having a healthy mind and a healthy brain, and I think that the health, like the weight or the goal weight or the goal physique, will follow.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. I mean, we got to unpack all that truth that you just gave us. Yeah, that's awesome. Going from all the way to just how, if we're not eating, straight from garden, from kitchen to table, if everything's not being local and farm raised and we're all in the city, then someone has to do it. It has to be mass produced, just like you're saying, and it has to be done cost effectively. Like, things have changed, definitely, and it's a for-profit business. And we're being sold, just like you said. It's all consumerism. It's someone is trying. Did you want to say something?
Well, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
So
go for it.
I was going to ask you, because you've obviously been a huge influence on the way that I eat today. Mm-hmm. So like, what are you looking for when you go to the grocery store?
Whenever I go to the grocery store, I'm looking for something that is a whole food, real food. I'm not shopping in the aisles of the store because they don't replace that stuff. That stuff sits there for a long time. I want to be eating living food that is going to expire soon, and a lot of that stuff is put on the outsides of the store. So I'm not going in the aisles unless I'm getting spices or honey, or that's about it, really. I don't have sugar. Honey is my natural sugar that I add to my meats. But anyway, I'm shopping on the outside of the store and getting real fruits and vegetables. I'm getting, my meats from red meat, from like beef and lamb, and then I'm getting chicken, white meat. I'm also, maybe getting some fish, not from the grocery store though. It's really hard to get good fish from the grocery store. And, maybe getting some turkey and some all this different stuff. You really have to buy organic stuff too whenever it comes to the fruits and vegetables, because again, things are being produced on a massive scale, and to do that, to maximize profits, to cut costs, you don't want a bunch of bugs and stuff and drought to come and take away your crops. You want stuff that's drought resistant. You want stuff that is not going to be affected by too much sun, or stuff that's going to be eaten up by the bugs. So you genetically modify these things and you spray them with a bunch of pesticides and herbicides and all this stuff. And so by the time that you're eating it, it's not something that was in its natural state. And then it's got all these different residues of just the chemicals and stuff that's on it. So maybe it's not even good for you at all. You're trying to eat healthy. Yeah, it's probably not good if you're not buying a high quality item. And I think that ultimately the food that we eat, it's not about the macronutrients. Like you were saying, it's about the micronutrients. It's about the quality of the vitamins and the minerals and the things that we're consuming from the food, and not just the nutrition label that we're being sold to on the back. Because things have been low fat and low calorie, and we've been advertised that forever. And it seems like people are still getting sick. People are still getting overweight, and they're eating low cal and they're eating low fat. And so I don't think that people that are in these positions of bad health, that they're just these crazy eaters, or that they're just these horrible people who can't control this stuff. They're eating low calories. They're trying to eat healthy. It's just that they're being advertised something wrong. It's just all consumerism. It's all false advertising. And so it's all about the micronutrients, eating real food, not just looking at the back of the label.
Hold your mic up.
I know. I like to keep them on their toes. Sometimes I need to lean in and listen to what we're saying, because it's truth.
Dude, we need to get you we need to get a button that shouts "Hold your mic up" or something.
I know. You
do like to keep them on their toes.
From just buddies and stuff tuning in on what we've been doing so far. A couple of my friends have been like, "Man, you're expressive with your hands. You need to have like a mic stand so you can, speak loud into the thing and not, move your mic and wave it everywhere as you're getting into it."
Maybe we should get mic stands.
Yeah.
We'll think about it. But anyways, I want to touch on something you said, kind of about with the mass production, and, buying organic versus not. A lot of these vegetables and fruits and things are sprayed. And it's ultimately the company protecting their product, right? If you have 100 of something that you're trying to sell and 50 of them are at risk, that's half of the income if 50 of them were to get eaten by a bug or whatever. So in order to protect the product, they're spraying with pesticides, herbicides, things of that nature. But there are studies that show that a lot of these diseases that we just talked about are what follows a lot of these chemicals or things that we are consuming, right? A lot of the ways that things are produced is what is causing this massive increase in chronic disease and mental disorder. And so it's like, hey, they want to protect the product to make the income at the expense of what? Our health.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's ultimately for each person to make their own decision. I kind of thought it was cuckoo forever to think about until I tried it. And that's why I said I want to be a living testimony, because, I'm big on yes, there are physical rewards. You feel better, you start to look better when you start eating healthy. But I am big on the energy, and the brain fog, and the focus, because I'm 25 years old and I struggled with that in my real estate career and my financial coaching career. I've struggled with that. And so once I have, and what did we mention on here? Some of these things on here, some of the, disorders on here are ADHD and ADD and brain fog and all that stuff. Well, I changed my diet and I started eating more organic. I started eating more red meats and, cooking in things like butter. I started cooking in things like butter rather than seed oils. And so once I started doing that, I noticed a change. And so I was like, okay, let's keep going with this. And then you start to research why that is. And kind of like you said, the suppression of, hey, we want a low-fat, low-calorie diet. Yes, while you may lose some weight, you are losing, in eating less calories and maybe cutting out certain fats, you are losing vital nutrients that promote brain energy, health, your hormones, being imbalanced, that allow you to have basically having your body in equilibrium, kind of the way that it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. That eating clean like that really promotes that, which then once your energy levels rise and your focus and all that, now my workouts are twice as productive. So now it's like, okay, now I'm reaping some physical rewards because I look better. My physique's getting better. I'm getting stronger. Well, it's like, okay, well, now I'm still losing weight even though I'm eating more calories, and because my workout's twice as productive too. Mm-hmm. There's so many benefits to it all. And then, the whole foods. Explain to them what a whole food is.
A whole food is, think of an apple tree. What does an apple tree make? It makes an apple. And so what's the ingredient to an apple? An apple. And a one ingredient food. A whole food is something that is as close to its original state as possible. One could say, well, not one could say, it is how it is. That's how God made it, right in its original state. And it makes me think we should all be eating whole foods and not man-made foods, ultimately, because who created food? Did God create food, or did man create food?
Yeah, seriously. I think a lot of it has to do with convenience too.
Yeah.
We fall into the trap of convenience. A lot of whole foods, you're going to be doing more cutting and cooking and things like that. But there are measures. Again, you have to weigh the cost benefit. Like, what is the cost? Okay, I have to take a little more time to either meal prep or, do this, cook this meal. Yeah. But the benefits, I promise you, will outweigh it, rather than going to the, pantry and getting a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
If you go grab a bowl of cereal, I promise you, you probably won't have the energy to cook a meal later that day, because you want to go on a sugar high and then fall off of it. And again, a good rule of thumb, kind of like you said with the whole foods, is I like to think of this as, and I think you told me this, like if someone was to ask me like what kind of diet are you on, like a single ingredient diet, I try to say as close to like a single ingredient as possible. Like an apple is an apple, a steak is a steak, chicken is chicken. If you get into some of the middle aisle stuff and you start looking at, what you're eating here, you're getting things, I don't even know if this is an ingredient, but it sounds about right because it has every letter in the alphabet, but like sodium hexaphosphate and like all these wild ingredients. And it's like, I don't know what that is.
It's like, if I'm going to make a homemade meal, I'm not going to say, hey, honey, can you toss me the sodium hexaphosphate, please?
Seriously.
No.
Yeah, you're not like, hey, sweetie, can you toss me that red dye 40 over here? I need to put that. Put that in here. Like,
here, let's get some high fructose corn syrup in here, please.
Yeah, we're not doing that. And so it's like, I think that's a good rule of thumb. I think it's like, it sounds so profound when we're talking about it this way, but like, I've eaten that way for a long time.
Yeah.
I've always been fairly decent shape because of my activity level over the last couple of years. As I got done with football, that started to go away, and now I'm eating healthier again, getting a lot of that back. But yeah, I would never look at my wife and be like, hey, let's make a homemade meal. Can you pass me that acid? You know what I mean? Like there is things on there that say acid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be more like, hey, sweetie, can you pass me the paprika? Can you pass me the onion powder? Can you put this on the steak for me? Can you put the salt on there?
Yeah.
Compiling your meals of one ingredient things, and trusting and knowing that the way that he created all of this is for us to be able to get proper nutritional value for our bodies through his creation.
Yeah.
He created us, he created this world, and so don't you think there is everything that he put here would allow us to prosper and our temples to prosper?
Oh.
I think so.
Exactly. I mean, he made all this stuff and it's awesome. And not only that, but he instructed us on exactly how to eat. He gave us, eat these fruits and veggies and eat these animals. And of all this food that I've given you, this is actually food and this stuff isn't food. Like he gives us the instruction of what's food, what's not food, what to eat. He didn't put the Cinnamon Toast Crunch tree in the garden, He didn't say, let there be Jell-O and let there be High C Punch. No, he said, Adam and Eve, I'm going to give you guys this awesome garden and all the stuff in it. And he said to Noah, he's like, okay, all right, go have some animals too. But yeah, bro, just eat God's food, eat real food.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think that including myself and a lot of people in my sphere, and if anyone's listening, I think there's going to be so many health leaps and bounds that you will make if you just try this. If you just try it, and you'll not want to go back. I don't. I've gotten to a point where if I do go and I indulge, and that's not to say like I'm not going to go out to eat with my wife and have a meal at a restaurant and stuff like that. Like I'm not some
extremist.
Yeah, but I'm doing my best, and when I go to the restaurant, I might ask them like, hey, what do you guys cook with? What's in this? Like that's totally fine too. You can ask them. They should know that. And I'm going to eat as healthy as possible there, because now that I have changed the molecular makeup, the hormones, now that I have been eating this way for 6 months, my molecular makeup has changed. Mm-hmm. And so now when I do go and indulge in something that has all the alphabetical ingredients in it, my body does not respond well. I built up a tolerance. It's sad to say, I built up a tolerance for that over many years because I ate it constantly. And then now that I'm eating in a clean way, once I do go and have that, we get to see some of the true thing, like, oh, that's what this does to us. We just forgot or didn't realize it because we lived it every single day. It's kind of like a drug. If you do it every single day, you get used to it. You build up a tolerance. Mm-hmm.
And it's not like people who are eating, out to eat per se, eating fast food, eating restaurant meals. It's not like Like you're purposely trying to be unhealthy. I mean, we get it. It's convenient, it's quicker, it tastes good. I mean, that's what you're being sold is convenience and just that pleasure that it tastes good. But ultimately buying groceries saves you money. A lot of people think, oh, well, buying groceries is expensive. Well, if you buy things in bulk, you're going to save money versus like whenever my food bill, I purchase it, a couple $100, whatever. But that might last me for a week, 2 weeks worth of food versus if I'm going out to every meal, 15, 99 here, 21, 37 here. It's like it stacks up quick. And if you eat the normal advertised breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're getting these crazy high expensive food bills every single day. That's going to be more than if you just bought it and cooked it yourself.
Let me explain this dynamic right now because I'm a budget coach and financial coach, like money organization coach in the form of budgeting. And I want to explain this dynamic because for the longest, I was like, thinking of the budget when I went to grocery shop and I didn't get the good stuff. I got more of the cheap stuff. And I was like, okay, well, now when I got that cheaper stuff, I would go out to eat multiple times a week to go get good stuff. Like my body was like, oh, I want to go out and have a steak or go and have this or go and have that. So we would go out to eat all the time. And so we would end up spending a ton of money on eating out because we didn't have the most, like our body was craving something nutritional or craving something other than the things we were getting, like the cereals or, the Pop-Tart or, even the dinner, some of the dinners we were eating and things like that. So we were craving something else. So then we would go out to eat and we would spend, however much per week on eating out. Well, I made the decision, okay, let's up the grocery bill. And what happened when I upped the grocery bill to eat good foods and I started cooking good foods? I craved more of those good foods, so I ate all the groceries. We weren't wasting them because I spent more money on them. I was maybe buying a steak and, these organic fruits and veggies. And so therefore I'm like, okay, well, one, I spent more money on it. So mentally, I want to make sure I eat all this. So that cut out eating out. And then also too, my body craved more of it. My body was getting the proper nutrients it was needing. And through eating, whole foods and nutrition, high foods and nutritional value. So my body was getting the things it needs. So like I wanted to eat more of the groceries we had. And before you know it, like I didn't really want to go out to eat. Now it's like a special thing to go out to eat. So the $150 I was spending on eating out every single week, well, now it's like, okay, let's spend 10, 15 more bucks on a grocery haul. And over the course of a month, I've actually saved money. Mm-hmm. And I want to explain that right now because I'm a living testimony of that. For a long time, I was buying groceries based on price. Well, now it's like I want to buy food that's going to make me feel good. And then that, like, it's a weird dynamic. It flips the script. It's hard to see when you're on one side of it because you're like, I need to save money. Well, your body naturally starts craving eating out and other foods that you're not eating at home because your body knows that the foods you're eating at home isn't what you need. Mm-hmm. So then you start eating foods elsewhere and you start buying more because some of those foods even have things in them that do not appease your appetite. Meaning like some of the foods that we eat that are in those middle aisles, some of the ingredients in them do not allow you to feel full. Like the nutrients of real food will have you feeling the hormones that it lets off in your body. So it'll keep you craving and wanting more food.
Yeah, I mean, stuff with highly processed food, it's very palatable. It's super easy to eat and it's not very satiating. You eat this stuff and it doesn't have a whole lot of substance to it. So you eat it and then your brain's not really releasing the hormones that says I'm full. And so you just keep eating it. And so it's like this void of calories you're just consuming. And it's not that much nutrients that you're really getting in, but you're still hungry, so you're eating. But ultimately, what your body really wants is it wants the whole food. It wants the good food, just like you're saying. My mic was far away. But your body wants the good food. Because that God's food, it's going to fill you up. It's going to have all the biochemical components that you need. It's going to, trigger the correct chain of hormones to, tell yourself that you're full, that you're good. And it's,
Yeah. I think it's good, and I think we're touching 45 minutes here, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and talk about. There was one or two things. Oh, let's talk about a few of these options. You'll know what I mean here in just a second, and then let's talk about some takeaways. So, kind of on this topic of micronutrients and hormones and things that are in real food that a lot of Americans are lacking in their everyday diet. So, if we're eating these foods that are lacking proper nutrients, we find ourselves lacking in certain things in our body. For example, I don't know what's like a nutrient or something,
Vitamin B12 deficiency or a vitamin D deficiency.
Deficiencies.
Yeah.
We start having these deficiencies.
Yeah.
And so then where does that lead? So if we're eating these foods that aren't giving us proper nutrients, we start having deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
So then where does that lead us to? We have several options. Option 1, we have the option to turn to pills and supplements. So now we say, okay, I have this deficiency. I'm going to go take a pill or a supplement for it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we go back to the commercials. Great, you might be getting your deficiency, in check, but there is going to be side effects that are, as we see, affecting potentially half the population when we go to these pills and supplements. So that's option 1. We turn to a pill or a supplement to go and remedy this deficiency we have. Option 2, if we don't want to turn to pills, because that's kind of how I've always been, is I've eaten unhealthy, but I've also been like, I don't want to take pills. So we decided not to take the pill, but I continued eating processed foods sprayed with chemicals, pesticides, herbicides. That's just as bad because I'm killing myself just as slowly, giving myself the same exact side effects that the medicine would have given me because I'm now lacking in the nutrients. So option 1, go to take the pill to take care of the deficiency. Option 2, you don't want to take care of, or you don't want to go take the pill, but you also don't want to change your diet. So you're still going down the same road that leads to death. Or option 3, we change the diet and we stay away from the pill and we stay away from, the foods that lead us down that road.
Yeah, we've got a lot of options. I want to make a change. I don't want to go down the other two choices.
Dude, I think you would ultimately be great to talk about this last takeaways and applications of where we go from here, because I know I've kind of done a lot of talking on today's episode, but that's because I'm excited about it and I've learned the majority of the stuff I've learned on this topic, I've learned from Braden. He is like the fitness, the health guy, and in some ways it was cool for me to be able to talk about this because I'm sitting right here next to you. And I couldn't have talked about this 6 months ago when you just started introducing a lot of these things to me. And so it was really cool to be able to, I didn't expect to talk that much on today's episode.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I know you're the guy on this one. So,
dude, I mean, we're neither one of us is greater than the other. We're both getting after it. We're both applying what we're learning. We're both gaining knowledge. And we're applying it, man. A quote that I tell you all the time: knowledge without application is cowardice. So what if you learn everything and you learn what the best diet is and you have all this information? If you're not taking application, I mean,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You should have just not learned it.
Exactly. It's vanity, ultimately.
Yeah.
So, just like you said, option 3, we are going to make a change. What's the change? What's the takeaway? What do we do now? Well, I think that there are some fundamental building blocks that to combat disease, to combat, weight loss, to combat whatever. Everyone needs to have these things set in stone. It's like a big equation. If you don't have these, nothing else on the other side is going to balance out. So what am I going to talk about? Sleep. Sleep is so important. We cannot cut sleep. We need to be getting some people will argue on what's the best amount of sleep. And again, everyone can take more or less than others, but a general rule of thumb is anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's so vital for your hormones, just for everything. And the more, the better. Next, you need to be hydrated. You need to be drinking water. What's the stat? Like 70% of our body is water. I don't know. Maybe that's 70% of the earth is water. But I can't remember exactly.
I've heard the stat. Well, the point is the majority of our body is water.
Yeah, and so we need to be drinking water, and clean water at that, because a lot of the water that we have available to us, it's not clean per se. It's got some, different stuff in the water. I mean, we live in Tennessee. Hard water is a very common thing. If you ever cut open a city water pipe and look at all the mineral deposits and all the crap that's in there, like, I wouldn't want to drink that. And that's, not even to touch on the different chemical stuff and hormonal stuff and endocrine disruptor things that are in our water supply, that can affect us. So I have water filtration. I have a distillation thing that I run all my tap water through before I drink it. And I have a gallon, vat of water that I carry around all the time. That's just my purified water, and it's great. I see, the trendy thing right now is those little Stanley cups. It's great. I'm glad that everyone is, taking their hydro flask or their Stanley cup. It's hydrated, but let's make sure that we're putting good, clean water into our bodies. And then on top of sleep and on top of good hydration, it's a good diet, man. And we already talked a lot about that, so we don't need to get back into that, but just eating a good diet of real food.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell me some of the things that are building blocks of your diet, kind of like your grams, what you're cooking with, what you're not cooking with, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Anything to stay away from.
I definitely say that between the diets, you have people that are wanting to eat carnivore or animal-based or vegetarian or paleo, whatever you call it. I'm in support of just all of them, that they are not wanting to eat man-made processed food. They're all trying to get back to some form of whole food and some combination of that. And I think that we, awesome and amazing creation of God, we should be eating God's food. And so, yeah, I'm on board. Whatever you find through your own research and experimentation is going to work for you, great. Eat real food. So it comes down to,
and make sure that through that food you're able to get enough that it's going to supply you with the things needed. I know you go get tested quite often on some of your different levels of things in your body, then to make sure that your body is like where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's important with any diet. I was thinking about this the other day, like, look at all these diets out here. Like, I'm like, what diet do I do, or do I want to do, or do I not want to do? But I'm like, I'm just in favor of a highly, like, just a punch of nutritional value.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, as long as it's a whole food, as little ingredients as possible, that gives me the nutritional value I need, then I'm in favor.
Bingo. You spoke to it right there. And so you have the good nutritional value. You have the food that's good. How you cook it and how you prepare that good food, whatever the diet is so important as well. So if you're baking stuff in the oven, great. I don't really think that there's really room for error other than, burning your food. But of all the stuff that you cook on or cook with in the oven, it's pretty good. If you're going to, cook with oils, I'd say stay away from seed oils, just because they're highly processed and they go through, all the different bleaching and just chlorinate and like all this just stuff that you have to do to extract this oil from, like corn oil or canola oil, or just some of these other,
the process of it.
The process of this stuff just isn't natural. And so definitely stay away from the category of stuff that's called seed oils. And then if you are going to cook with oil, cook with something that doesn't have a high smoke point. Olive oil is good. I love olive oil. So many benefits to it. However, it burns at a it doesn't have that much tolerance whenever it comes to the burn rate, and it actually turns into something like the molecular structure of it kind of starts to change into something that's carcinogenic after it's reached its smoke point. And so you don't want to be cooking things in the oven on high temperature or in a pan on high temperature with olive oil. Maybe if you are really set on using an oil, coconut oil. I use coconut oil. It's phenomenal. It's sweet. It's great. I love it. Avocado oil I don't use, but is also, a better one. So the cooking utensil, not, the lubricant of the oil or whatever, the actual thing that you're cooking on. Like a grill is great. An oven is great. If you're going to cook with a pan, you really want to stay away from those non-stick pans. I know that it just seems easy to crank up the heat and just slap something on there and just not have to worry about it sticking. But ultimately, you need to learn how to cook, and you can't just cook everything high blast. And there is a lot of toxic stuff leaching from those non-stick pans into your food.
There's a reason it's non-stick.
Yeah.
It's because there's stuff on it to make it non-stick. But what does that do once it mixes in with your food? Like, kind of to your point, a lot of the things we practice, one, leading down from the whole foods, we also cook with butter often. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's good for you. We cook with butter. We cook on cast irons. We cook with, I use wooden utensils. My wife, she's been, on this health train for a lot longer than I have, and I didn't understand it for the longest. So we have all wooden utensils, but I can remember thinking back to like college and stuff where I'm cooking eggs with like these plastic spatulas, but then like the whole end of the spatula is like burned and melted. Yeah. And it's like, bro, that's like in my food. Mm-hmm. That stuff that melted off. And so, yeah, cooking with butters, kind of staying away from seed oils, especially if you're going to get them super hot. Staying away from seed oils, staying away from nonstick pans. So using things like cast irons, staying away from plastic spatulas, using like wooden, bamboo, whatever it might be, metal spatulas. I think metals.
I use stainless steel stuff. Yeah,
stainless steel stuff. That's all good. Not having the plastic. I think those are all great things. And then
what's other than just cast iron? Like stainless steel frying pans.
Yeah,
that's also another great option.
Yeah.
It's
a one ingredient pan. It's steel.
Seriously.
Or it's iron.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, here's this pan. It's just like the food.
Yeah.
Like the pan that is non-stick is made up of this material, but also has all these additives to make it non-stick. It's very similar. Yeah. It's like you're cooking with a cast iron, you're cooking with iron. Mm-hmm. And you throw butter in it.
Yeah.
You're cooking with stainless steel, you're cooking with steel. It's one ingredient. Mm-hmm. If you can stick to one ingredient, man, it's intention. It's how the design of this creation is supposed to, intended to be, according to Scripture. So
it is, man. You had mentioned butter. Also, I can't go without saying how much I love ghee butter, because ghee butter, it can handle hotter temperatures. So if I am cooking stuff, on the pan that I want to sear, ghee butter is my go-to. That's awesome. And just sticking to animal products, like animal fats, butters, all that stuff. That is what our bodies know how to use. Like that's what's around. That's what we would be able to have access to. Our bodies know that. It doesn't know all this other stuff. But yeah, and so all of this, these are the building blocks. This is the one side of an equation to balance the other. The other side is health. And if you want to have health, you got to have all these foundational things right. And what's the spark plug to all of this? You're doing all this right. You're putting in the good fuel. Like everything is set in stone. The spark plug, like if you want all this to take off, you want to see progress, you want to have goals come to reality, dude, get some regular exercise in. You're eating healthy, you're sleeping, you're hydrating, everything else is checked off the box. Now you have to do, something else that's hard. You have to physically fortify your mind, your body, your spirit, all of that. Our temple, we have to take care of it.
I want to point out with the exercise, I thought a lot about this week. So with exercise, do whatever you can. It's vital for longevity, our muscles, and being able to carry around our frames and our weight, because we look at there's a lot of people in wheelchairs today. And I just have this thought of no wonder we end up in wheelchairs because we don't exercise and we don't have the muscle in order to carry our own selves.
Yeah.
That's not the case for everyone. There's a lot of cases where someone literally can't walk. But there's also, unfortunately, there is also a lot of people who might not be able to carry themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say that to say that, exercise is important.
Yeah.
Muscle mass or, skeletal muscle is very, very important.
It is.
And it all plays together. So to kind of to recap what you just said, one, starting with sleep, we need to get 7 to 9 hours. We need to hydrate, try and drink a gallon a day. We need to eat whole foods. We need to eat one ingredient foods or as close to it as possible. We need to cook in things that are one ingredient, like cast iron, stainless steel. Use wood or bamboo or stainless steel utensils, not plastic. Do those things, and also try and get all of our nutrients from natural foods and not have to go to pills or supplements. If you can do those things and then do a little bit of exercise a day, if you can do those things, you're going to see drastic increases in things like mood, energy, focus, physical, physique. You're going to see all these increases that we all kind of look at and say, man, I just wish I had more energy to make it through the day. Man, I can't focus anymore. All that stuff's going to increase if you just do those things right there and make it a lifestyle. Make it a lifestyle. Don't say I'm going to go on this diet and I'm going to try it. Don't say I'm going to go on this diet and, give it a shot and see, how it does. Say, I'm making this change and I'm making this change for good, and you're going to pivot as you go. We're in a world of diets and taking before and afters. I was talking to some, friends and family about this, taking before and afters, and here's me after, doing this diet. I was like, so you're done with it? That's the after? Or are you still going to do it? And so it's kind of making it a switch to say, okay, this is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. Is very important to this too. So.
Yeah, and there's so many diets, there's so many plans out there, there's so many routines. People can kind of get overwhelmed with what's the best one. Well, the best one is the one that you can consistently do. Whatever you can do that's going to work for you over and over again, that you can turn into a lifestyle, that is going to be what's best. Something that I'd like to touch on before we wrap up, that I thought was, we had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago, but just the concept of food addiction being so vastly different than any other addiction out there. I'd like to preface that I think that food addiction is something that we all deal with, whether we like to think about it, talk about it, or not. And it's something that society kind of just puts under the rug, just kind of brushes off. But food addiction is so different than any other type of addiction. If I'm addicted to methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, whatever, I go through these withdrawal periods whenever I completely cut it off. And then there's these addiction rehab centers, and there's all these different protocols to help me get back to a normal life without this thing a part of me anymore.
You cut it out. Hey, let's go through this rehab to help you cut out taking methamphetamine or heroin or whatever it might be. So it's hey, let's get you off of this. Yeah.
But you can't do that with food. This is the addiction that is so profound, because you can have these unhealthy habits whenever it comes to food, but you're daily going to be presented with this thing that you're addicted to. And so it's important that we have a healthy view on food, and that we're having some type of structure and routine to this thing that we're always having. Because it's imagine this. You have someone that is, addicted to drugs or addicted to pornography or something like this. And you're like, okay, I know that you're addicted to this, but don't be addicted to it. But I'm still going to give it to you every single day. What type of situation are they going to be in to be able to say no? And so food, it's just such a conundrum that you're in. And so
because we have to have it. You can't cut it out. You can't. You can change your habits around it. You can change the way you view it. Yeah. Like you said. but you can't say, let's cut out food. You have to eat it to survive.
Yeah.
You can with pornography, you can stop. With taking this certain drug, you can stop. Well, it's I can't come to you and say, well, Braden, you're addicted to eating. Stop eating.
Yeah. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Different than any other addiction.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, crap. I mean, it's like we're in a rock and a hard place. What do we do? What do we do about this? And I think that we just have to change our perception of food. We say this all the time to each other, but food is fuel. We have to view fuel. We have to view food as function and not this pleasurable thing that we do to, seek a feel good, get that dopamine release. It's not something that we casually do among friends. It's not something that we do when we're bored. Food has a function and it serves a purpose, and it's to get our bodies, right, get all the nutrients that we need. And that's what it needs to be.
And I think we can do an entire episode on that alone and food addiction. And
we could.
Also, we can tie into that episode the topic of fasting.
Yeah.
Fasting is a biblical topic, and it's also something that on this topic, just very briefly, we don't know how to control ourselves today.
Yeah.
We don't. Fasting is biblical, and fasting is good when done properly. And fasting doesn't have to be, I'm going to do a 72-hour fast. Fasting is, hey, I just ate meal 1 of the day, and now I'm going to try and make it to meal 2 without snacking on Cheetos and donuts. That's a period of fasting.
Yeah.
And we have to learn the self-control, through fasting sometimes. And that's something that's very difficult today because everything is right at our fingertips. I don't have to wait for the crop to grow in order to harvest it and eat it. I don't have to store away, rations for the winter and say, hey, we can't have more than this because we're going to run out before winter ends. That's, again, points back to how we live today versus how we lived 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think we can do a whole episode on on fasting, food being an addiction, and talking a little bit about
just the self-discipline and a lot of these concepts coming from Scripture.
Yep.
I think we could. I think that wraps up today's episode. We talked about a lot of amazing stuff, and this is stuff that we're both passionate about, and we're currently doing, and we're currently learning more, and our views of this might change, and some of the main things are going to stay the main things, but how we adapt and the different protocols we add and take away might change because we're learning and we're taking action, and that's what we hope to inspire everyone to do.
Yeah, and so if any of this, if you want to know more about it, if you have questions about it, if you want to start on this journey, reach out to us. We love being accountability partners to people. At some point it's going to get big enough to where we have to take different measures to have accountability, because if 100 people reach out, it's hard for us to be accountability one-on-one with people. So we'll have to, put systems in place, whether that's, Facebook groups, certain communities and stuff in the future. But if you have questions right now, reach out to us directly, social media, YouTube, leave comments, whatever, we'll get back to you, and we'll answer any questions, again, just kind of based off of our personal knowledge. And I just want to encourage you all this week to just take the first step and just try 1 week of eating this way or exercising this way. And if you can do it for 1 week, see how you feel, that's the ultimate reward. You'll want to do it again. But anyways, 1 hour and 10 minutes is what we're at. It's impressive. That's the longest one yet. Braden, give us a quote, and then let's close her up.
Let's let Scripture speak for itself. Philippians 3:19. Their end is destruction. Their God is their belly, and they glory in their shame, with minds set on earthly things.
Don't let your God be your belly. Lowercase g. On that note.